introduced in the Short Tales segment of Shakespeare in Paradise in the 2018 season. So tonight we are going to hear her story, her original story about Sarah Moultrie, a Black loyalist and freedom fighter. Welcome, welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Ayanna. My story is Sarah Moultrie, Black loyalist and freedom fighter, and it's based on true events. Folks always ask me, Sarah, how come you got this longing for freedom? And I don't rightly know. I was born on Great Ropers Plantation near Beaufort, South Carolina. I grew up there, and I had a baby there. But I never felt like I belonged. So when I heard that Lord Dunmore had issued a proclamation to the effect that any slave who came over to the British side to fight against the Americans would get his freedom, I jumped at the chance. I grabbed my Georgie bundle and my baby, and I ran to Charleston. In Charleston, I got my certificate of freedom. I was able to work as a laundress and cook for the British. I had the free run of the city, but maybe that wasn't such a good thing, because this slave trader, Jesse Gray, he caught me and my daughter, and he gave us to one Ann Nelson as compensation for property that had been confiscated from her by the Americans. Miss Nelson, she treated us like slaves. In 1782, the British were run out of Charleston by the Americans, and Miss Nelson, she took us with her to Florida, St. Augustine, Florida. That didn't last long, though, because the British were driven out of St. Augustine by the Spanish. Miss Nelson, she had a choice as to where to go, and she chose to go to Nassau, Bahamas. Would you believe she was offered different things to go, including an enticement of 20 acres of land for each dependent. So as I was a so-called slave, I was considered a dependent, and she got 20 acres of land for me. I didn't get one red cent, notwithstanding that I had done far more for the British than she ever had. Be that as it may, Miss Nelson, she jumped ship as soon as she could. She was on the first ship to London, England. She didn't even take time to settle her affairs. She gave me as a free gift to one John Martin Struder. Well, Mr. Struder, he didn't waste no time selling me. I heard he got $1,000 from a Mr. Hugh Dean for me. Mr. Dean, he put me on his plantation as a cook. I think he was planning to sell me on at a profit, but I didn't let that happen. I ran from that plantation to Lord Dunmore's plantation. Now, I know you asking yourself, could that be the same Lord Dunmore would give Sarah her freedom? And you would be correct. He was now governor of the Bahamas. Lord Dunmore, he heard me out, but he said, Sarah, I'm afraid that due process has to be followed, so you'll have to go before the Negro court. Until that time, you can stay here and cook. So that's what I did. But Mr. Dean, he didn't take kindly to my departure. So he got Mr. Struder to come to Lord Dunmore and demand that I be returned as a runaway slave. Lord Dunmore didn't do that, though. And so Mr. Struder took more drastic measures. He came onto the property with armed men and tried to remove me forcibly. But I had like a guardian angel watching over me and eyes in the back of my head. They never caught me. Eventually, I came before the Negro court. There was 3 white judges. They didn't want to hear a word I had to say, but they called Mr. Struder as a witness. Mr. Struder, he didn't do Mr. Dean's case much good, because when they asked him how I described myself, he said, well, actually, Sarah always described herself as free. So between that and the fact that I had my papers and that Lord Dunmore liked my cooking, I was free at last. Glory, hallelujah. Oh, freedom, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Bebo Ben, my story ends.
Yes. Thank you very much, Heather.